sir.
Yes, yes, we can
Okay.
say the PowerPoint.
The topic of my paper is understanding the future of ETM or TIP in post-withdrawal Afghanistan. There are four objectives which I have tried to attempt to address in my paper. The first is to map out the presence of the group in Afghanistan. The second is to examine the ways through which this group can threaten CPEC. The third is to understand the future relationship of Afghan Taliban and this ETIM group once the foreign troops withdraw from Afghanistan. And the last objective is to understand the prospects and challenges of cooperation between China and Afghan Taliban on ETIM. Before I discuss the main findings of my paper, I just want to give a quick background of ETIM. It emerged in late 90s with a single objective to establish a Uyghur state in the Xinjiang region of China. It has two branches. One is the Afghan branch and second is the Syrian branch. My paper focuses only on the Afghan branch, which has an estimated 500 militants presence in Afghanistan. It is headquartered in the Badakhshan province of Afghanistan. There are multiple avenues through which this group funds its terrorist activities. Extortion and kidnapping for ransom are the major means through which the group funds its terrorist activities. As you can see in this map, these are the specific districts in which specific districts of Badakhshan province where ETM currently exists. It is headquartered in the Joram district of this province. At a broader level, as you can see, the blue color region is those where the militant of ETM currently have a presence, whereas the green color region are those in which the top officials or the key leaders of this group move or either currently operates from. Moving on to the key leadership of this group, we know the Amir or the head of this group is Abdul Haq al-Turkistani, whose original name is Memti, and Qasali is the deputy of the Amir of the group. Farouk is the logistics chief who is operating from Afghan province of Paktika. It is the same province from where Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, anti-Pakistan terrorist group, currently operates from. Haji Farouk is a well-known ETM deputy commander who currently operates 1,000 foreign fighters in Afghanistan. He has under his command about 400 militants of ETM as well. Shoaib is one of the senior operators of the group, whereas Hamza and Abdul Salam are the religious leader of this ETM group. Now, coming on to the main objectives of my paper, how ETM can threaten CPEC. First of all, it is important to realize the fact that it cannot operate independently to disrupt any CPEC project as of now. It will need networks of facilitators in Pakistan. In this regard, it will have to rely on Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or the Baloch groups in order to use their logistical channels to send terrorists or carry out terrorist activities in Pakistan against CPEC or Chinese interests in Pakistan. Now, the group might get a support in case if the Syrian branch of ETM decided to relocate from Syria to Afghanistan, and there is a strong possibility that this might happen in future. There is also a possibility that once Pakistan is already expecting a huge number of influx of refugees from Afghanistan to Pakistan, so ETM can use the disguise of refugees to enter Pakistan. In March this year, Abu Zar al-Burmi, whose photo you can see on the slide, issued a statement in which he declared he's a very influential leader among the militant groups in Afghanistan. He issued a statement in which he called for a jihad or against a so-called holy war against China, both politically, economically, socially, and militarily. So what can be the potential targets for ETM in Pakistan? There are the potential target or the potential area in which this group can target Chinese interests or CPEC is Chitral. There are two projects right now related to CPEC in Chitral. One is the Chitral CPEC link road. This project currently exists only on paper. It does not have the construction work related to this project has not started as of yet. There is another project of a road project from Chitral to Shandur, which can be possibly target the workers working on this project can possibly target in the future. Then there are hydropower projects in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which can potentially be targeted. We have seen already a terrorist attack on one of the project, Dasu hydropower project, earlier this month, in which the Chinese and Pakistani workers were attacked. The Chinese investigators believe that ETM and Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan was involved in the attack, although the group has denied any claim of responsibility, but it has said that it possibly one of the faction of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan might be involved in this attack. Then there is a possibility of an attack on the workers working on the road project on the Karakoram Highway Phase 2. And there's a possibility of kidnapping and targeting of Chinese nationals in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Gilgit-Baltistan. There is also a serious threat to the life of the current Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, Nong Rong. He narrowly escaped a terrorist attack in April this year in Quetta. There is this letter issued, as you can see on the slide, in 2017, where Chinese authorities informed Pakistani authorities about the possibility of a militant moving from ETM and ETM militant entering in Pakistan with the intention of assassinating then Chinese ambassador to Pakistan. So there is a very serious life threat against the Chinese ambassador to Pakistan. In order to discuss the future relationship of Afghan Taliban and ETM, it is important to understand that there will be no harm in the relationship once the foreign troops withdraw from Afghanistan. The Doha Agreement does, if you read the Doha Agreement, it says that the Afghan Taliban cannot host any group which threatens the security of US and its allies. ETM has never declared an open statement or any threat to US or its allies. So this gives a leverage to Afghan Taliban to allow ETM to stay in Afghanistan. Moreover, it is important to understand that Afghan Taliban at the top level might be doing it for politics or whatever reason might they be, but the mid-ranking commanders and foot soldiers of Afghan Taliban will never go against ETM because they believe that what ETM or other foreign terrorist groups doing in Afghanistan is basically in line with what Afghan Taliban has been doing for past 2 decades. So in this regard, Afghan Taliban currently has taken a pragmatic approach. They will never take an open action against ETM in Afghanistan. However, they can forbid them from targeting any Chinese interest in the region, specifically Pakistan. There is a case study of Haji Furqan. He currently operates about 1,000 foreign fighters. He has under his command 400 fighters from ETM as well. So there is a possibility that Afghan Taliban in future might integrate ETM fighters into their umbrella. However, there is also a possibility that Afghan Taliban might ask ETM to move to other locations in case they decide to continue with their anti-China activities. Tajikistan Foreign Minister already has issued a statement where he raised the possibility of ETM militants moving from Afghanistan to Tajikistan. In order to understand what might be the cooperation between Chinese authorities and Afghan Taliban on ETM, there are 4 possible scenarios which I have came to the conclusion. First, there might never be an agreement, no understanding between Chinese authority and Afghan Taliban on the group. There is also a possibility that a secret agreement might be reached between Afghan Taliban and Chinese authority. Since it will be a secret agreement, we might never know what are the terms of this agreement. However, Afghan Taliban might need this agreement in order to gain legitimacy or support from China once Afghan Taliban are able to capture Kabul. And moreover, they will be needing support of China for the reconstruction of the country. There is a third scenario that Afghan Taliban might reach an agreement with China similar to the one which they have reached with America regarding Al-Qaeda. However, even if such a possibility materializes, Afghan Taliban will never prevent training and organizing of ETM in Afghanistan. It will never forcefully expel them from Afghanistan, and it will never hand over them to China. It have never handed over to them in the past, and it will never hand over any ETM militant to China in future as well. There can be a fourth possible scenario in which Afghan Taliban might ask ETM to move to new locations, and once the ETM might find new locations for their terrorist activities, till that time period, their families can temporarily stay in Afghanistan. So in this regard, I have come up with some policy recommendations for the Chinese policymaker. It is important that I propose that a Chinese Ministry of State Security work out on a trilateral intelligence framework with Afghanistan's NDS and Pakistan ISI in order to monitor the movement of ETM in Afghanistan. They can consolidate the intelligence and work out a way through which they can ensure that ETM does not become a larger threat to Chinese interests in the region. China should also talk to the neighboring countries of Afghanistan in order to monitor the potential movement under the disguise of refugees once the situation continues to deteriorate in Afghanistan. It is important for Chinese embassy and consulate in Pakistan to work with their Pakistani counterparts in order to ensure the proper registration of Chinese nationals in Pakistan who arrive in this country for private reasons. There have been a number of cases. A recent case in which Chinese national was recently targeted in Karachi. There have been incidents in which Chinese nationals have been very careless. They have never alerted the local authorities about their arrival to Pakistan, and they have went to those areas of a city which are already well known for criminal activities. So it is very important that Chinese embassy and consulate mobilize their effort in this regard. Moreover, Chinese Ministry of Public Security should add the names of Baloch and Sindhi groups who have been targeting Chinese nationals and interests on a regular basis now from a long time, for more than 5 and so years. It is also important that China should revisit its counterterrorism policy and de-radicalization policy in Xinjiang. Uh, I won't be going into details, but it is very important for China to be very transparent about what it is doing about terrorists or the suspected terrorists which it has captured in Xinjiang. China can study the Pakistani de-radicalization efforts. Pakistan has over the years captured a number of terrorists, have de-radicalized them, and have allowed them to mainstream through a certain ways. So Pakistan can offer its assistance to China in this regard, and China can study those measures or efforts without going to the extent to which China is currently in terms of counterterrorism and de-radicalization policy, because I believe that the current policies might prove to be counterproductive in the long duration, and it will allow the marginalized individuals in the Uyghur community to join this extremist group, and all these current extremist groups continue to use the Chinese policies as a propaganda machine for their recruitment. Pakistani policymakers, I propose that they should form a joint terrorism task force in order to deal with the emerging threats from Baloch and Sindhi groups to Chinese national in Pakistan. Its Pakistani authorities need to constantly upgrade and enhance its intelligence gathering mechanism in urban areas. It is also important for the Pakistani authorities to identify and disrupt existing networks of facilitators. Pakistan might not have an organized terror infrastructure of a group, but but the country continues to have networks of facilitator which allows the occurrence of terrorist attacks in Pakistan. It is also important to strictly monitor the inflow of refugees. It might never be possible to identify potential terrorists once the refugees start to enter in Pakistan, but it is important to whatever extent Pakistan authorities should ensure a strict monitoring of refugees who enter Pakistan. And at last, I would say that extra vigilance and monitoring of Chinese national is also very important for Pakistani authorities to ensure that they does not become target of terrorist groups in Pakistan. Thank you for listening to my presentation.